So I hope some of you at least got to see a little of the first release live stream since the de-blocking by YouTube. I wanted to let you guys know that I'm on a platform called Cocoscope. One second. So Cocoscope is a new video hosting website. So I want you guys to familiarize yourselves with it. It seems very user-friendly. BitChute is also good. So please subscribe to both of those. There are, you know what? I think it's important for you to subscribe to BitChute first because it was out there first. But you know, the more of these that you can subscribe to, the harder it is to remove us from the internet. Those of us that are content creators. Not that I specifically have had as much of a problem as other people, but you know, for example, Alicia Clegg, who I've talked to a number of times, she's on Cocoscope, and it looks like it's growing, but you know, we have to get these alt tech startups to chew away at YouTube's segment, and eventually I think YouTube will stop caring much about censorship, and because a lot of these viewers will simply migrate over to the new platforms, and YouTube will be left for, you know, the corporate shills and whatever, and who's going to care? Because when they get less viewership, what will they have gained? You know, people could have just watched cable on their TV. Now they're going to be watching it on YouTube. Maybe they will. Maybe they won't. So I think YouTube is, you know, they're looking out for their own interests. It's not the same YouTube that was originally there to provide a space for independent content creators. Way before it became used for politics, of course, it was used for stuff like, you know, people strumming a guitar cover or something. Well, that's kind of it's just not as common anymore. YouTube is really corporatized. So besides that, we're going to talk a little bit about some of these media outlets basically having to, you know, just pay attention to. They're really falling apart. All of these publications, and I'm going to talk about one example on the conservative side, another example on the liberal progressive side. You have here. Blaze TV host Michelle Malkin and Gavin McInnes out after a CRTV merger. That was something that has been rocking that you know, that platform for the past 2 or 3 days. So those of you that are familiar, Glenn Beck has owned the Blaze since probably, I'd say, 2013, and it emerged as kind of his alternative to Fox News, an online alternative, similar to the way Breitbart is another alternative to Fox News. You know, they're more clearly out on the conservative edge. So there's those of you that are thinking about it, so that you can really organize who's where. There's a number of news outlets that are distinctly on the right. For example, the Daily Caller, the Daily Wire, the Daily Signal, Breitbart, Conservative Review. You know, you have NRA TV. There's a lot of them, and there's more all the time. And then there's just individuals who put out their own content. So those are kind of those are kind of competing for the same space. And in the case of the Blaze and CRTV, they were competing for paid subscribership because those are both produced sites, produced video websites. So CRTV, I think, was anchored mainly. By anchored, I mean the main person on it was Mark Levin. And then you would also have Dan Bongino and Michelle Malkin and Gavin McInnes and Steven Crowder. I'd say Steven Crowder might even be more popular than what's his name than Mark Levin if you're talking about the youth. But Mark Levin, I think he made a huge mistake by selling out to Glenn Beck. And the reason for, maybe it's a big mistake in terms of the platform, because now he's kind of, if he stayed with the organization, he's going to be with a shittier organization, because the Blaze was just a disaster. And I think the reason the Blaze was a disaster was because Glenn Beck was really in it to promote Glenn Beck. He wasn't in it to promote the journalism. He wasn't in it to promote his social vision necessarily. He wasn't in it in order to create a real alternative news outlet. He was in it to promote Glenn Beck. And there are certain moments I've seen, kind of indications that Glenn Beck does have stuff that's worth listening to over the past 2 or 3 years, but mostly it's not. It's kind of like the guy is still stuck on just talking to the air, is the way I would describe it. So no, I don't think he's a good person to administrate the Blaze, which has been struggling over the past few years. They had to lay off people. They ended up firing Tomi Lahren because she was pro-abortion. Tomi Lahren was a horrible commentator anyway. Who cares? So there were a number of people. In fact, Anthony Logan was mentioning earlier in his video that for example, Allie Beth Stuckey had been with CRTV. She'd been with the Blaze before CRTV. Then she went to CRTV, and now that's being bought up by the Blaze. What's going to happen with her? I think that a lot of these people are going to end up migrating over to a new platform and just doing their own crap. Maybe even going fully independent again. Roaming Millennial, I think, might even be on CRTV. She's probably going to leave. I don't know what's going to happen with Dan Bongino. I don't think that any of these people need the platform of CRTV in order to be successful. Certainly not Crowder. Certainly not, what's his name? Certainly not Roaming Millennial, by the way. She could probably do very well, seeing as, she looks amazing. I'm just going to put it out there. But also because she had a massive fan base way before she joined CRTV. So I think that this was a huge mistake on the part of CRTV and Mark Levin. And Gavin McInnes losing his platform, getting unpersoned, is really, if Glenn Beck had anything to do with that, the man is a disgrace. If he did. If he didn't, then I guess one could be forgiven for thinking so. But it's a strange coincidence that in the past couple of days he's been basically wiped off of the internet, and it's all in the wake of the stuff about, the Proud Boys are a hate group and whatever. Well, in his place, I think that a lot of these people should be filing class action suits against these platforms that mass deperson them and get them kicked off. And they should start getting onto platforms like BitChute and now Cocoscope. I love that word, Cocoscope. So, and by the way, Cocoscope has very little censorship, so you can find plenty of content there that you can't find anywhere else. Of course, there are limits. You can't just abuse it. You can't do things illegal on it. So I just want to make that clear. But it looks like a very fresh new platform, and you guys can let me know what you think about it. The other story is that Slate, which is actually, I think, much more established than the Blaze and CRTV, but it's on the left, is going through a strike. So this left-wing publication, they can't pay people. So they're basically going to be eating themselves alive. Recently, unionized writers and editors at Slate have reportedly voted almost unanimously to strike over concerns about the company's diversity policies and a rule mandating that union fees be optional for Slate employees. Bloomberg News reports that Slate employees voted 52-1 in favor of a strike and have begun considering when workers will walk out. A spokesman for the union told Bloomberg that the rules mandating optional union fees at the left-leaning blog seem to be a betrayal of the site's values. We just feel that it's a total and an absolute betrayal of Slate's most fundamental values, Slate writer Mark Joseph Stern told Bloomberg. A request for comment from Slate was not immediately returned. Representatives for Slate's union released a chain of messages on Twitter Tuesday morning following the vote, further accusing Slate management of trying to degrade the legitimacy of Slate's union. We've been bargaining our contract for 8 months. We're excited by a lot of what we've achieved at the table, but we're still dismayed by management's position on certain key issues, the union tweeted. Most crucially, our unit continues to be outraged by management's inclusion of a right-to-work clause, a technique designed to degrade the legitimacy of our union, the account continued. We love Slate. We want them to make the strongest, best Slate possible, but Slate is its workers. It's the writers, editors, producers, and staffers who make the magazine. So the Writers Guild of America East, which represents Slate's union, told The Hill in a statement that Slate staffers were fighting for a reasonable contract with management. The WGAE represented employees at Slate have made two things clear to management. They want a reasonable contract that addresses their needs and respects their decision to unionize, and they're willing to fight for it. The Writers Guild of America East and its thousands of members stand with the Slate employees, and we know that solidarity works. The group's executive director, Lowell Peterson, said. Bloomberg reports that Slate workers had previously employed other in-office forms of protest before resorting to Tuesday's vote, including at least 1 hour-long Slack strike where employees would sign off or refuse to answer messages on the office communication platform. So yeah, this is horrible news for Slate, because it's already impossible for some of these magazines to really attract the revenue that they used to, largely because the internet has become kind of, with things like Wix, with things like WordPress or Blogger. So people can just put together average news sites like nothing. It's not. I was talking with somebody just an hour ago who's trying to put together their own project, and I said, it's a difficult world because we're going through a lot of uncertainty for people who do make a living writing and putting together media. So I definitely sympathize with those people, but we're just going to have to see what shakes out, because inevitably I don't think that you can completely eliminate the group of people who do make a lot of their personal income from writing and reporting and things like that. But at the moment, it looks like it's a bad time to be in that industry. And I'm kind of glad that I'm in an industry that isn't dependent on this. So please like this video, share the video, subscribe to the channel, subscribe to my other channel, Razor Ray Live Wounds, as well as my channels on BitChute, and now Cocoscope, as well as all the other social media in the description below, including Gab and Minds. And I'll talk to you guys later. Enjoy your Wednesday.